Monday I thought we'd get a response.
Yes.
Thought we'd get a response from Real Madrid, but we didn't. They're in a bad shape at the moment. Clearly they're in a bad shape. And as I said on Monday, this is where we're going to learn about Zidane. Not when everything's sailing easily in the wind and cruising and the waters are calm. Right? That's not what management, and Stevie will tell you better than us. When that's happening and all these great players are playing great, it's relatively simple for him.
Now we're
going to learn about him earning his corn, him earning his money. Can he manage these players? That's what we're going to learn from their side. As for Spurs, this whole Wembley thing was gone weeks ago, wasn't
yes, that hoodoo is definitely
This
broken.
Wembley thing was gone. The big thing for me was Kane coming back into the team was a risk because of the hamstring. But when you see him running in the channels and stretching that defence as he did, clearly he was super fit to start this game, and it paid off.
Let's focus then on Real Madrid, shall we, Ali? We were at Cardiff when they were exceptional against Juventus. 8 of the players that started that Champions League final started tonight, yet they were a complete shadow of that team. How can you go from one end of the spectrum to the other?
Well, that tells us that it's not just about your performance on the field and your ability and your skill set. It's also about how mentally you approach the matches. And you see that across the board right now, Real Madrid are in a place without confidence. Because if you struggle against Girona, it is Girona. We go back to the game. You struggle against Girona playing the best team that you have available and you get outplayed by a team that is currently 12th in La Liga. It tells you that right now you're not playing at your very best. And so you start looking for the next guy to perhaps make the pass, make the tackle, instead of doing your job. You don't do your job, that guy doesn't do his job. And right now, across the board, you see that all over the place by Real Madrid.
We sat here, we lambasted Real Madrid on Monday, as everybody did in the world, especially, of course, in Spain. And as Craig said, we expected a response. Right. We expected the right boys. We were just humiliated by Girona, whoever they are. Right now, we can really show the world that we are the best team. Yet there was no fight. There was nothing from this Real Madrid team.
No, I mean, we sort of tried to think that it was just a lack of concentration against Girona. It was one of those days where you're playing inferior opposition. This game showed us that Zidane's got real problems. It's one thing to have a problem not scoring goals, but you're tight at the back, or vice versa. The problem they have is both sides of the field. You know, they could not break this Tottenham side down, who I thought had far too high a line. So many times Ronaldo was looking to get little balls rolled in behind. It didn't come. And then defensively, what an absolute shambles it is. I mean, you talk about not having anybody in that back line.
Mention him.
Who, Ramos?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, there we go.
I mean, he can't get around now. You know, you clearly see how Varane makes up for the rest of them. Yeah. Because his pace, the amount of times Spurs got in behind them today, they missed the pace of Varane. And they got beaten, and they got well beaten.
And how easily Harry Kane was able to get around Sergio Ramos as if he wasn't even there. I think that the thing that really caught my attention about Real Madrid is how disconnected the lines were. How all of a sudden Casemiro is playing in between the center backs, and there is no connection between him and Luka Modric and Toni Kroos, who usually control the midfield for Real Madrid. And from there, that's where their success comes. That hasn't happened over the last 3 weeks or so. We have seen it in performance after performance. And Real Madrid, when they're disconnected, I don't care how good you are. When you're disorganized, if you play against a good team, they're able to exploit that, and you saw that today from Spurs.
It was interesting that Pochettino, before the injury, put Davinson Sanchez back into the side, which he didn't do at the weekend. I thought it was a big surprise. I mean, I know Dyer had to go back in eventually because of Alderweireld's injury. But just looking at Tottenham, you've got Dele Alli, who doesn't always take part in the game. That sounds strange, but he's quite happy just to drift away and time his runs and pick his runs into the box. You've got Eriksen with his trickery. You've got young Winks doing a great job in there. You've got Dembele, who's coming back to fitness. And the one thing that's noticeable, I know the goal was offside. If you look at the difference between Trippier and Walker, you can argue that Walker's all-round a better player, and that's why Man City paid the money for him, and he's having a good season. But when it gets in the final third, there's not many better in England than Trippier. And tonight wasn't a great example. Well, it was a great example, but I think in whipping a ball in, a crossing quality from the right-hand side, Spurs are getting that extra quality in the final third. So many times in the previous year or two, they'd get down that wing because Walker was so quick and he'd scuff one over the bar.
Right.
With Trippier, you might not have the all-round game, but the delivery in the final third is magic.
Just put this result for Spurs into context. This has got to be one of their greatest results, certainly of the last 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we saw now is a Spurs team that that we all had questions about, whether when it came down to it, they just lacked that killer instinct. But we can't say that anymore. I mean, they played against the champions of Europe and comprehensively outplayed them. Now, the problem they have, can they actually take that next step? Can they dominate teams in the Premier League? Can they...
Well, if you can beat Real Madrid, surely you can beat anyone in the Premier League.
Well, listen, any team can have a good performance and win against anybody. We know that. But the question we've always thrown at Spurs is, when it comes to it, can they take that next step? Well, they've shown that they're capable. What they need to do is take it now.
Now, here's my question, because it's interesting what you're saying, Stevie. In a hypothetical world, if Real Madrid and Spurs were to be matched up in the knockout stage, who would you pick coming out of that game?
Yeah. See, and that makes you think.
Yeah. So
at the end of the day,
it's not automatically Spurs, despite what we saw.
At the end of the day, this is a group game. This is not a do or die. This is not a quarter-final or a semi-final or a final. That's the difference.
At the moment, I'd take Spurs. At the moment, if it was a knockout game.
Yeah, if they're going to play again tomorrow.
Because they're in bad shape.
Yeah.
But they're in bad shape.
Come the turn of the year, this could be a different Real Madrid side.